Greetings. Welcome to the second part of my new series, The Devil's in the Details. This first series is specifically on speed picking and use of speed picking in the black metal genre. The last video we covered how to choose your plectrum, how to grip your pick, how to position your hand on the tremolo to pick, and then we defined some basic terms in guitar playing like alternate picking, economy picking, tremolo picking, and of course finally speed picking. I would like to break down a little bit more now about speed picking. As I mentioned last video, tremolo picking is when you pick one note multiple times using alternate picking. Now when you take the tremolo picking and you move it around on more than just one note in your creating sequences, it's called speed picking. Now, let's see if I can get this hand in here. Now that's a very simple pattern I choose to do either on the A string or the D string. If we start on the A string, I'm playing it on the 2nd fret. On your guitar that would be your D string open. The reason for that is, again, I am tuned to D standard, so my 2nd fret is your standard tuning. So you'll always want to be that step behind me so that we're in key. If we're on the 2nd fret, D string, put the 3rd finger down. 4th fret, pinky down on the 5th fret, it's a very simple pattern. Okay, now if we take that pattern and rev it up, we can do things like that with it. So in speed picking there's a couple core components which have to be in place. Number one, you have to have your alternate picking down. If you can't alternate pick smoothly, you won't be able to speed pick. So number one is you have to practice the minute mechanics of alternate picking. You practice with the metronome, as we discussed in the very first video. And what you can do is once you have the basic tremolo picking down on one string, you can then move the bar around. Just to get your feet wet. Then a very important thing is making sure that your picking and your fretting hand are syncopated, and there's a lot of exercises designed just for getting these two things in tune and working in harmony with one another. Really, any pattern that you can create can be used as long as you understand how you're setting up the picking So you're actually working at developing your alternate picking, and you're not developing incorrect mechanics or wrong ideas. Or another thing I would suggest doing when starting off working with speed picking is work with open strings, because then you're also working with you're training your ear to stay in key. So in other words, if we have the A string, and then we're at the D string, 7th fret. Okay, and then if we take this pattern, so that will get you used to developing your speed picking alongside with the black metal sound. Another very important component is what I call double hand palm muting. Okay, now the one thing that'll make or break your sound as a guitarist, irregardless on if you're playing black metal or country or pop, is you have to have a clean sound. You know, even the more atonal black metal still needs to be controlled chaos. It's not just random, and you know, people are under this impression that you just turn up the distortion and the volume as loud as possible and you try to get it to sound like crap, but I mean, that's very, very, very far from the truth. Actually, you're bringing out certain harmonic tones and ranges with how you set up the actual black metal tone. It's actually a fairly subtle process, but when it's done correctly, you can completely hear the difference. It gives it a certain atmosphere. It brings out a certain harmonic range in the notes, and that's what you want. You just don't want chaos and, you know, 1,000 things going on, because you want the listener to be able to hear what you're playing. So now, double hand palm muting. Well, we know we always keep a palm mute using this fleshy part of our picking hand. You know, that's laid over the strings, right? And in thrash and black metal, they use the palm muting. But in black metal, we don't typically palm mute like that. Though, of course, you can incorporate any metal technique in with your black metal. But we're just talking about traditional black metal techniques. Don't use heavy palm muting like that, nor the rhythmic thrash style guitar, which was further developed in the death metal style, you know. But what we want to do is have dynamic control of what we're playing. So this finger and the fleshy part of the palm is muting the strings on this end, and then this hand is muting as many strings as possible depending on what note you're playing. If I was on the A string, 5th fret, my finger resting on these other strings, see, I'm not barring it, I'm not pressing down with my index finger so these lower notes will sound. I'm only pressing at the very tip of my finger, so I'm only activating the 5th fret on the A string, and the other strings, see, are muted. So that's how I can play fast how you play fast but clean. and you're keeping control of the sound. You know, you can have a pause, you can have silent beats put in there, like I demonstrated. Actually, the shredder Richie Kotzen is really good for putting in little stop beats like that, which really accentuate what he's doing. You know, when he's doing one of his licks, his legato licks. But this whole idea is very difficult to teach. Really, all I can do is push you in the direction. It's just like false harmonics. You can kind of describe it, but it's something the person just has to actually work with and use for it to benefit them and for them to be able to do it. So now remember, we want to work on our up and down alternate stroking with the plectrum. We want to be able to incorporate economy picking when it is the most logical. We want to have both of our hands lightly palm muting and controlling what's ringing out. Believe it or not, even when we use big chord structures that we're ringing out, which is one of the black metal techniques, but we still control it. Check this out. This is just an E minor chord. Well, on my guitar it's a D minor because I'm tuned to D. But if we just take the open E, right, and I'll speed pick a riff out of this. Check it out. Okay, now I wasn't picking it like this. I was picking it like this. I'm keeping control of the notes. I'm not just letting it ring out. I'm squeezing when I want to accentuate a note, and then I'm letting off tension when I want to clip its ringing out. This way my notes aren't all bleeding together. You know, when you let everything bleed together, it's very sloppy, and the human ear can't even register what's going on. So you want to keep control over how things ring out. You want to be able to stop something from ringing out at a snap of the fingers, and while focusing on the double hand palm muting and your alternate picking, the third thing, which just goes along with all of it, is economy of motion. You want to be the most economical with everything you do. To do that, you want to minimize moving your hands. If you notice, my picking stroke is very small. I'm not picking it like you would Metallica, you know, with your power chords. This is a very